Daeho checked his watch as he walked through the long hallways of Nexus Station. The metal walls gleamed under bright lights, and aliens from dozens of worlds moved past him. Some had blue skin, others had tentacles instead of arms, and a few floated in special suits filled with gas. After 3 years working here, Daeho had gotten used to the strange sights. He carried a data pad with reports about grain shipments from the human colonies. It was boring work, but someone had to track food supplies across the galaxy. As a diplomatic aide, Daeho spent most of his time filing papers and attending meetings where nothing important happened. The main conference room was already full when he arrived. Daeho took his usual seat in the back corner, in the section marked for observers and junior staff. The big circular table in the center was surrounded by important delegates from the major alien species. Ambassador Krell from the Vrex Empire sat tall with his gray skin and 4 arms. Admiral Tae-min from the Korthax moved his snake-like body around his floating chair. The others looked just as serious. "Today we discussed trade routes in Sector 7, announced the Nexus Station computer in its calm voice. Daeho opened his data pad and started reading. The meeting began like all the others. Delegates talked about shipping schedules and tax rates. Daeho tried to stay awake as numbers and charts appeared on the big screen. Then something strange happened. "All junior staff and observers must leave now," said Ambassador Krell suddenly. "This session is now classified." Daeho looked up, confused. This had never happened before. Around him, other low-ranking workers started packing their things. Security guards in black uniforms appeared at the doors, checking ID cards as people left. Daeho stood up and walked toward the exit with the others. But just as he reached the door, his data pad beeped loudly. He stopped to check it, thinking it might be urgent. The message was just a reminder about lunch later. When Daeho looked up, the door had already sealed shut. A red light glowed above, it meaning the room was now in full security lockdown. The guards had moved to other parts of the station. Daeho was trapped inside. He quickly moved back to his corner and sat down low, hoping no one would notice him. The lighting in the observer section had dimmed automatically. In the shadows, he might be invisible to the aliens at the main table. "Now we can speak freely," said Admiral Tae-min, his voice much more serious than before. "The humans are becoming a problem." Daeho felt his heart start beating faster. Were they talking about his people? "Their expansion rate is too high," continued the Admiral. "In the last 50 years, they have started colonies in 47 star systems. That is more than any other species in the same time period." Ambassador Krell moved all 4 of his arms as he spoke. "The humans adapt too easily. They can live on worlds that other species find impossible. Desert planets, ice worlds, even high radiation systems. They change these places and make them better." A delegate from the Spiral Alliance made a whistling sound that Daeho knew meant agreement. "On Kepler 442b, humans turned a dead rock into a garden world in only 20 years. Now 3 other species want to build cities there too. That is exactly the problem," said a voice from across the table. Daeho recognized Speaker Vorth from the Crystal Confederacy. "Humans do not just survive in harsh places. They improve them for everyone else. This threatens the natural order." Daeho pressed himself deeper into the shadows. His mouth felt dry. These aliens were talking about humanity like they were some kind of disease. "Their military tactics are also concerning," added Admiral Tae-min. "During the border wars, human forces defeated armies twice their size. They do not fight like other species. They use tricks and unexpected strategies. Humans are too creative," said Ambassador Krell. "They solve problems in ways we do not expect. This makes them dangerous trading partners and even more dangerous enemies." The room fell quiet for a moment. Day-Ho could hear the soft hum of the station's air systems. His hands were shaking slightly as he held his data pad. "What do you propose we do?" asked Speaker Vorth. Admiral Taemin's snake-like body coiled tighter around his chair. "We have been studying human psychology for 2 years. Our experts believe they have found a weakness." "Go on," said Ambassador Krell. "Humans are tribal. They form strong bonds with small groups but fight among themselves when stressed. If we isolate their colonies and create economic pressure, they will turn against each other instead of working together." "An embargo?" asked the delegate from the Spiral Alliance. "More than that," replied Admiral Taemin. "We cut off all trade, block their expansion routes, and pressure neutral species to refuse human ships. Within 5 years, their growth will stop. Within 10 years, their colonies will be fighting civil wars." Day-Ho felt sick. These aliens had been planning to destroy humanity while pretending to be friends. "The beauty of this plan," continued the Admiral, "is that we do not fire a single weapon. Humans will destroy themselves. Then we can move into their territories and claim the improved worlds they leave behind." "What about Earth itself?" asked Speaker Vorth. "Earth has too many humans and too many weapons," said Ambassador Krell. "But without their colonies, Earth will become isolated and weak. Eventually, they will have to accept whatever terms we offer them." The aliens spent the next hour discussing details. They had already bribed officials in 12 neutral governments. Trade routes that supplied human colonies were being quietly shut down. Ships carrying human goods were facing new safety inspections that lasted for weeks. Day-Ho realized that some of the supply problems he had been tracking were not accidents. The aliens had already started their plan. "When do we begin Phase 2? asked the delegate from the Spiral Alliance. 3 months, said Admiral Taemin. "By then, the economic pressure will be strong enough that humans will blame their own government instead of looking for outside causes. And if they discover our involvement..." Ambassador Krell made a sound that might have been laughter. "Humans are too trusting. They believe in diplomacy and fair play. They will never suspect that their trading partners are working against them." Meeting continued for another 30 minutes. The aliens discussed which human colonies to target first and how to make their actions look like natural market forces. They seemed very pleased with themselves. Finally, Ambassador Krell stood up. "This session is concluded. Remember, not a word of this leaves this room. As far as anyone knows, we discussed trade routes and shipping schedules." The other delegates agreed and began to leave. The security system unlocked the doors with a soft beep. Day-Ho waited in his dark corner until the room was completely empty. His mind was racing. He had just learned that humanity's allies were planning to destroy them. And worse, the plan was already working. He stood up slowly, his legs stiff from sitting still for so long. As he walked toward the exit, Day-Ho made a decision. These aliens thought they knew everything about humans. They thought humans were weak and predictable. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Day-Ho stepped into the bright hallway and headed back to his small office. He had work to do, and not much time to do it. But first, he needed to figure out exactly who he could trust on this station. The aliens had made one big mistake. They assumed the quiet human filing reports in the corner was just what he appeared to be. Day-Ho smiled for the first time that day. Day-Ho sat in his small office, staring at his computer screen. The data about grain shipments looked different now. What he had thought were random delays and pricing changes were actually part of a pattern. The aliens were slowly cutting off food supplies to human colonies. He pulled up shipping records from the past 6 months. Colony ships that used to dock at Nexus Station once a week were now coming only once a month. The official reason was increased security measures, but Dae-ho now knew the truth. His door chimed softly. "Come in," he called, quickly switching. His screen back to normal work. Dr. Hae-young entered with her usual bright smile. She was one of only 12 humans working on Nexus Station, and her research lab was just down the hall from his office. "Hello, Dae-ho. Are you free for lunch?" "Sure," he replied, trying to sound normal, but his mind was spinning. Could he trust her? What if she was part of the alien plan? They walked to the food court together. Hae-young talked about her latest project, something about faster communication between star systems. Dae-ho listened with new ears, wondering if her research could somehow be used against humanity. "The breakthrough is amazing," she said as they sat down with their meals. "We can now send messages across the galaxy in just hours instead of weeks. The alien delegates are very excited about it." Dae-ho almost choked on his food. "Which delegates?" "Oh, all of them. Admiral Taemin visits my lab almost every day. He says the Korthax Empire wants to help fund my research. Isn't that wonderful?" Dae-ho nodded, but inside he felt cold. The aliens were not just planning to isolate human colonies. They wanted to coordinate their attacks using Hae-young's technology. She was helping them without knowing it. "That sounds great," he managed to say. "Tell me more about how it works." As Hae-young explained her research, Dae-ho began to understand the full scope of the alien plan. With instant communication across the galaxy, they could launch attacks on all human colonies at the same time. No colony would be able to warn the others. After lunch, Dae-ho returned to his office and locked the door. He needed to contact Earth, but all communications went through Nexus Station's central system. The aliens would see any message he sent. He opened his desk drawer and pulled out what looked like a simple metal pen. But Dae-ho knew it was much more than that. He twisted the top 3 times and pressed the button on the side. A tiny light began blinking. The pen was an emergency transmitter designed to look like normal office supplies. Every human in the diplomatic corps carried one, though most never expected to use it. The signal would bounce off several communication satellites before reaching Earth. It would take weeks for the message to arrive, but it would be completely secret. Dae-ho began composing his report in his head. But as he thought about what to say, he realized he had a bigger problem. Even if Earth got his warning, what could they do? The aliens controlled most of the galaxy's trade routes and had military alliances with dozens of species. A direct confrontation would be suicide for humanity. He needed more information before sending any messages. Dae-ho decided to do something risky. He would try to access the station's classified databases. That evening, after most of the alien staff had gone to their quarters, Dae-ho made his move. He walked through the empty corridors to the computer center, carrying a cleaning cart. He had borrowed from the janitorial supplies. To anyone watching, he would look like a maintenance worker doing late-night cleaning. The computer center was protected by several security systems, but Dae-ho had been watching the technicians for months. He knew which terminals had the weakest protections and when the automated systems ran their daily maintenance cycles. At exactly 11:47 p.m., the security cameras switched to their backup power system. For exactly 90 seconds, they would show recorded footage instead of live video. Dae-ho had timed this dozens of times while pretending to work late. He slipped into the computer center and went straight to Terminal 7. His fingers moved quickly over the keyboard, entering access codes he had memorized weeks ago. The screen flickered and then showed a login page for classified files. Daeho held his breath as he entered his stolen passwords. Green text appeared. Access granted. The files he found made his blood run cold. The aliens had not just been planning for 3 months. They had been working against humanity for over 2 years. Ships carrying human goods were being sabotaged. Trade agreements were being secretly changed. Neutral species were being bribed or threatened to exclude human merchants. But the worst part was a file labeled Phase 3. After isolating the human colonies and letting them fight among themselves, the aliens planned something called protective intervention. They would send military forces to restore order in human space. Of course, they would never leave. Daeho copied as much data as he could onto a small storage device. But as he worked, he heard footsteps in the hallway outside. Someone was coming. He quickly closed the files and shut down the terminal. Grabbing his cleaning supplies, he started wiping down the computer stations. When the door opened, a security guard looked in. "Oh, it's just you, Daeho," the guard said. "Working late again?" "These computers get very dusty," Daeho replied with a smile. "I like to clean them when no one is using them." The guard nodded and continued down the hallway. Daeho waited 5 more minutes, then left the computer center with his stolen data. Back in his quarters, Daeho studied the files more carefully. The aliens had been incredibly thorough. They knew which human colonies produced the most food, which ones had the strongest military defenses, and which ones were most likely to surrender without a fight. They had also been studying human psychology and culture. One file contained detailed analysis of human movies, books, and news reports. The aliens believed they understood exactly how humans would react to economic pressure and isolation. But as Daeho read their conclusions, he began to smile. The aliens had made several important mistakes in their research. First, they had only studied civilian humans. They knew nothing about human military intelligence or special operations. Second, they assumed all humans were the same. They did not understand that humans from different colonies had developed different skills and capabilities. Most importantly, they had no idea that some humans working on Nexus Station were not what they seemed to be. Daeho looked at himself in the mirror. For 3 years, he had played the role of a boring diplomatic aide perfectly. He filed reports, attended meaningless meetings, and never caused any trouble. The aliens saw exactly what he wanted them to see. But Daeho had not always been a diplomat. Before coming to Nexus Station, he had spent 8 years in human intelligence services. He was trained in surveillance, sabotage, and psychological warfare. His assignment here was to watch and learn, not to take action. That assignment had just changed. Daeho activated his emergency transmitter again and began encoding a different kind of message. This one would not go to Earth. Instead, it would reach other human agents scattered across the galaxy. People who, like him, had been waiting and watching for years. The aliens thought they were hunting sheep. They were about to discover they had been living among wolves. As he worked, Daeho thought about his sister Jiwoo, commanding her exploration ship somewhere in the Outer Rim. She would be receiving coded warnings soon, along with every other human captain who knew the real situation. The game was about to begin, and the aliens had no idea they were already losing. Daeho woke up early the next morning with a plan forming in his mind. He dressed in his usual simple clothes and walked to the cafeteria for breakfast. Everything had to look normal, even though his world had changed completely. As he ate, he watched the other humans on the station. Dr. Hae Young was reading research notes while drinking coffee. Two human technicians were discussing repairs to the air filtration system. A cargo handler named Byung-ho was checking shipping schedules. On his tablet, Dae-ho had always thought these people were just regular workers like himself, but now he wondered if any of them were also playing roles. After breakfast, he went to his office and started his normal routine, but every few minutes he would glance at his emergency transmitter. A small green light meant his message had been received somewhere in the galaxy. So far, the light was still red. Around noon, his computer chimed with a new message. It was from Dr. Hae Young, asking if he wanted to see her latest breakthrough. Dae-ho hesitated. He needed to know more about her research, but he also needed to be careful. He walked to her laboratory, which was filled with complex machines and holographic displays. Hae Young was excited as she showed him a new communication device. "Look at this," she said, holding up something that looked like a small crystal. "With these relay stations, we can send messages instantly across the entire galaxy. No more waiting weeks for news from home." "How does it work?" Dae-ho asked. "The crystals create a quantum link between any 2 points in space. Time and distance don't matter. Admiral Taemin says this technology will bring all the galaxy's species closer together." Dae-ho nodded, but his stomach felt tight. The Admiral was not interested in bringing species together. He wanted to coordinate attacks on human colonies. "When will it be ready?" he asked. "The first relay stations are already being installed," Hae Young replied proudly. "We should have full galaxy coverage within 2 months. 2 months. That meant the aliens would be able to launch their coordinated attack in 2 months. Dae-ho needed to work faster. That afternoon, he made a decision. He would approach Byung-ho, the cargo handler. Something about the man seemed familiar, though Dae-ho could not place where he might have seen him before. He found Byung-ho in the loading dock, checking containers that had just arrived from a Vrex transport ship. The man worked efficiently, scanning each box with a handheld device. "Busy day?" Dae-ho asked casually. Byung-ho looked up and smiled. "Always. These Vrex ships bring more cargo every week. Lots of military supplies heading to the outer rim." "Military supplies?" "Weapons, armor, communication equipment. They say it's for protecting trade routes, but..." Byung-ho shrugged. "Seems like a lot of gear for dealing with pirates." Dae-ho studied the man's face. There was something in his eyes that reminded Dae-ho of his old intelligence training, a way of watching everything while pretending to focus on simple work. "Can I ask you something?" Dae-ho said quietly. "Have we met before?" Byung-ho stopped scanning containers and looked directly at him. For a moment, his casual expression changed into something much more serious. "Maybe," he replied. "Depends on where you think we might have met." It was a careful answer, the kind intelligence operatives gave when they were not sure if they could trust someone. Dae-ho decided to take a risk. "I think we might have attended the same school," he said. "The one with the very strict teachers." Byung-ho's eyes widened slightly. School was code for intelligence training, and strict teachers meant military instructors. If Byung-ho was really an agent, he would understand. "I remember that school," Byung-ho said slowly. "Graduated about 10 years ago." "What? About you?" 12 years, Dae-ho replied. "Different class, same program." They stared at each other for a moment. Then Byung-ho smiled, but it was a completely different smile than before. "We should talk," he said. "But not here. Too many security cameras." That evening, they met in a small storage room deep in the station's lower levels. Daeho had checked for listening devices earlier. The room was clean. "Agent Byung-ho, Human Intelligence Service," the man said quietly. "Deep cover assignment monitoring alien military movements." "Agent Daeho, same service. Diplomatic surveillance." They shook hands, and Daeho felt relief for the first time in days. He was not alone. "How long have you known?" Byung-ho asked. "About the conspiracy? Since yesterday. About you? I just guessed this afternoon." Daeho told Byung-ho everything he had learned. The secret meeting, the alien plans, Dr. Hae-young's research being used against humanity. Byung-ho listened without interrupting. "It's worse than you know," Byung-ho said when Daeho finished. "I've been tracking military shipments for 8 months. The aliens have been moving weapons and troops toward human space. They're not just planning economic warfare." "What do you mean?" "I mean they're preparing for real war. The economic isolation is just the first step. When human colonies are weak and fighting each other, alien fleets will move in." Byung-ho pulled out a small device and showed Daeho a holographic star map. Red dots marked alien military bases, and yellow lines showed recent troop movements. It was clearly pointing toward human territory. "There's something else," Byung-ho continued. "I've been monitoring communications from the Korthax fleet. They're expecting to capture something important from the human colonies." "What kind of something?" "Technology, advanced terraforming equipment, new ship designs, weapons systems. They think human colonies are hiding military research." Daeho thought about his sister Jiwoo and her exploration ship. She had always been secretive about her work, saying only that she was improving uninhabitable worlds. "Maybe they're right," he said slowly. "What do you mean?" "My sister commands an exploration vessel, but I think she might be doing more than just exploration. What if the human colonies have been developing new technologies in secret?" Byung-ho's eyes lit up. "That would change everything. If humans have military advantages the aliens don't know about, we need to contact Earth," Daeho said. "But also the colonies. They need to know what's coming." "I have secure communication equipment hidden in Cargo Bay 7, Byung-ho replied. "But we need to be careful. One suspicious message in station. Security will arrest us both." They spent the next hour planning their next moves. Byung-ho would continue monitoring alien military shipments, while Daeho gathered more intelligence from the diplomatic meetings. They would send coded warnings to human forces and try to learn more about what technologies the colonies might be hiding. As they prepared to leave, Daeho felt something he had not experienced in years. Hope. The aliens thought they were hunting helpless prey. But humans had been preparing for threats they could not even imagine. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their military. It was their ability to plan ahead while making their enemies believe they were not planning at all. "One more thing," Byung-ho said as they reached the door. "There are probably other agents on this station, people we haven't identified yet. How do we find them?" "We don't. We let them find us. If we're careful and smart, they'll reveal themselves when the time is right." Daeho nodded. The game was becoming more complex, but at least now he had an ally. And if Byung-ho was right, they might have even more help than they realized. The aliens had made their plans in secret for 2 years. Now it was humanity's turn to use the shadows. For the next 3 days, Daeho and Byung-ho worked their normal jobs while secretly gathering information. Daeho attended boring meetings and filed reports, but now he listened carefully to every conversation. Byung-ho loaded and unloaded cargo, ships, but he was really tracking weapons shipments and troop movements. On the fourth day, Daeho's emergency transmitter finally showed a green light. Someone had received his message and sent a reply. But the coded response was not what he expected. Package delivery confirmed. Family reunion postponed. Aunt Ji-woo sends regards. Daeho stared at the message. Package delivery confirmed meant Earth had received his warning, but family reunion postponed was not a standard intelligence code. And why mention his sister by name? He thought about it all day. That evening, he met Byung-ho in their secret storage room. "I got a response from Earth," Daeho said, showing the message. Byung-ho read it twice. "This is strange. Family reunion. Postponed is not in any code book I know." "What about my sister's name? Why would they mention her specifically?" "Maybe." Byung-ho paused. "What if your sister is more important than you thought? What if she's not just commanding an exploration ship?" Before Daeho could answer, they heard footsteps in the corridor outside. Both men froze, listening. The footsteps stopped right outside their door. A soft knock echoed in the small room. 3 short taps, then 2 long ones, then 3 short. Again. Daeho and Byung-ho looked at each other. It was an intelligence service code, but neither of them had sent it. "Someone knows we're here," Byung-ho whispered. Another knock, same pattern. Whoever was outside was being patient. Daeho made a decision. He walked to the door and knocked back using a different code sequence. If the person outside was really an agent, they would respond correctly. The answer came immediately. The right code. Perfectly timed. Daeho opened the door. Dr. Hae-young stood in the corridor, but she looked completely different. Gone was her cheerful smile and casual posture. Her eyes were alert and focused, like a soldier on guard duty. "We need to talk," she said quietly. "All of us." She stepped into the storage room and closed the door behind her. For a moment, no one spoke. "Agent Hae-young, Human Intelligence Service," she finally said. "Deep cover assignment, Advanced Research Division." Daeho felt his world shift again. "But you're really working on communication technology. I've seen your lab." "I'm really working on communication technology," she replied. "But not for the reasons the aliens think." She pulled out a device that looked like one of her experimental crystals. But when she activated it, a holographic map appeared showing the entire galaxy. "This is not just a communication system," she explained. "It's a complete intelligence network. Every relay station I build secretly transmits data back to human space. We're mapping alien military positions, trade routes, and political relationships." "The aliens are funding their own surveillance," Byung-ho said with amazement. "Exactly. Admiral Tae-min is so excited about instant communication that he's paying me to spy on his own forces." Hae-young changed the holographic display. Now it showed troop movements, weapons shipments, and fleet positions across dozens of star systems. "This is what I've learned in the past year," she continued. "The conspiracy against humanity involves 47 alien species. They've been planning this for over 2 years. But they're not the only ones with secrets." "What do you mean?" Daeho asked. "I mean, human colonies have been preparing for something like this since the border wars ended. Your sister Ji-woo is not just an exploration captain. She's commanding Project Deep Root." "What's Project Deep Root?" Hae-young smiled for the first time since entering the room. "The largest terraforming operation in galactic history. But it's not just about making dead worlds livable. It's about making them defensible." The holographic map changed again, showing human colony worlds. Each one was surrounded by what looked like a complex network of stations and installations. Every human colony has been building hidden defense systems, Hey Young explained. Underground factories, concealed weapons platforms, emergency supply depots. The aliens think human worlds are peaceful farming communities. They're actually fortress systems. Deho stared at the display. How many people know about this? Everyone who needs to know. Colony governors, military commanders, key scientists, and engineers. The civilian populations are kept safe by not knowing details. But why keep it secret? Byung-ho asked. Why not tell the galaxy that human worlds are defended? Because the best defense is making your enemy think you're weak, Hey Young replied. If the aliens knew the truth, they would bring much larger fleets. This way, they'll attack with just enough force to conquer helpless farmers. And instead, they'll run into military fortresses, Deho said, understanding. Exactly. But there's more. Project Deep Root is not just about defense. It's about changing the balance of power in the galaxy. Hey Young touched the holographic controls again. The map now showed hundreds of star systems, many with no current inhabitants. Human terraforming technology is 50 years ahead of anything the aliens have. We can make worlds livable in decades instead of centuries. But we've been hiding this capability. Why? Because once the current crisis is over, humanity will begin the largest expansion in galactic history. Thousands of new colonies, all built with advanced technology the aliens can't match. Deho felt overwhelmed. Everything he thought he knew about humanity's situation was wrong. They were not weak victims facing a conspiracy. They were a sleeping giant that was about to wake up. So what's our role here? He asked. Intelligence gathering, just like before. But now, we also need to help trigger the alien attack at the right time. Help trigger it? Byung-ho sounded shocked. The colonies are almost ready, but they need a few more months to complete their preparations. We need to delay the alien timeline without making them suspicious. Hae-young put away her device and walked toward the door. I've been feeding false information to Admiral Taemin, making him think his communication network needs more testing. You two need to find ways to slow down their military preparations. How do we do that? Use their own paranoia against them. These alien species don't really trust each other. If we can make them suspicious of their allies, they'll waste time, arguing instead of attacking. After Hae-young left, Deho and Byung-ho sat in silence for several minutes. This changes everything, Byung-ho finally said. Does it? We're still trying to protect humanity from alien attack. But now we know humanity can actually win. The question is whether we can do our job well enough to give the colonies time to get ready. Deho thought about his sister Jiwoo working to build secret defenses on some distant world. He thought about Dr. Hae-young using alien funding to spy on alien forces. He thought about all the humans across the galaxy who were quietly preparing for a war that most of them did not even know was coming. We can do this, he said. The aliens think they're the hunters, but they're wrong. They're walking into a trap that's been 50 years in the making. So what do we do tomorrow? Tomorrow, we start making the aliens doubt each other. By the time they realize what's happening, it will be too late to stop. Deho smiled as he said it. The game was more complex than he had imagined, but humanity was playing to win. The next morning, Deho started his plan to turn the aliens against each other. He had spent all night studying the intelligence files, looking for existing tensions between different species. The aliens had worked together against humanity, but they had their own conflicts and rivalries. His first target was the trade dispute between the Vrex Empire and the Spiral Alliance. Both species wanted exclusive mining rights in the Kepler sector, but they had agreed to work together until after humanity was dealt with. Deho waited until the afternoon diplomatic meeting, then made his move. "Excuse me, Ambassador Krell," he said during a break in the session. "I noticed an error in the shipping reports from Kepler 438. The Vrex ambassador looked annoyed. "What kind of error?" "The cargo manifests show Spiral Alliance mining equipment being delivered there, but I thought that system was reserved for Vrex operations." Ambassador Krell's gray skin turned slightly darker, which Deho knew was a sign of anger. "What mining? Equipment?" "Probably just a clerical mistake," Deho said innocently. "Should I file a correction report?" "No. I will handle this myself." Deho watched as Ambassador Krell immediately walked over to the Spiral Alliance delegate. Within minutes, they were arguing in loud voices. Other aliens stopped their conversations to watch. One seed of doubt planted. Meanwhile, Byung-ho was working his own plan in the cargo bays. He had discovered that Admiral Taemin was secretly moving extra weapons to systems near Korthak's territory, even though those weapons were supposed to be shared equally among all Alliance members. During his shift, Byung-ho made sure that a Vrex security officer accidentally saw the shipping manifests for those weapons. He left the documents where they would be found, then walked away. 2 hours later, angry Vrex officials were demanding to know why the Korthak's empire was hoarding military supplies. Dr. Hae-young played her part perfectly. During her daily meeting with Admiral Taemin, she mentioned that she had been asked to provide communication crystals to several different species, but the Spiral Alliance wanted theirs delivered first. "They said it was very urgent," she told the Admiral. "Something about coordinating their fleets before the other species are ready." Admiral Taemin's snake-like body coiled tighter around his chair. "Did they say why their fleets need to be coordinated first?" "Oh, no," Hae-young replied with fake innocence. "I assumed you all were working together. By evening, the alien alliance was showing serious cracks. Ambassador Krell accused the Spiral Alliance of trying to claim the best human colonies for themselves. The Spiral Alliance accused the Korthak's empire of planning to betray everyone else. Smaller species began choosing sides and making their own secret deals. Deho, Byung-ho, and Hae-young met in their storage room that night to plan the next phase. "It's working better than I hoped," Hae-young said. "Admiral Taemin is now convinced that at least 3 other species are planning to double-cross him. The Vrex are pulling their ships back to defend their own territory," Byung-ho added. "They think the Korthak's fleet might attack them instead of the humans." "Perfect," Deho said. "But we need to be careful not to push too hard. If they realize they're being manipulated, they might unite against us again." Over the next week, the 3 agents continued their subtle sabotage. They planted evidence of secret meetings that never happened. They forged shipping documents that made species look like they were stealing supplies from their allies. They spread rumors about military buildups in the wrong star systems. The alien alliance began to fall apart completely. The Spiral Alliance announced they were postponing their participation in anti-human operations until certain security concerns were resolved. The Vrex Empire started demanding guarantees that other species would not claim Vrex-conquered territories. Smaller species began withdrawing their fleets entirely, but the most important development came from an unexpected source: Commander Su Jin. of the human patrol fleet sent a coded message that reached Daeho through Dr. Hae-Young's secret communication network. Increased alien activity detected in sectors 7 through 12, multiple fleets converging on human space. Preparing defensive positions as instructed. Request status update on local intelligence operations. Daeho realized that his work on Nexus Station was part of a much larger plan. Human forces across the galaxy were moving into position, ready to spring their trap when the aliens finally attacked. But first, he needed to make sure the aliens attacked at the right time, in the right way. "We need to delay them another month," he told his partners. "The colonies need more time to complete their preparations." "How?" Byung-ho asked. "They're already suspicious of each other. They might just call off the whole operation." "No," Hae-Young said thoughtfully. "They're too committed to stop now. They've spent too many resources and made too many promises to their own governments. But we can make them waste time arguing about details." She was right. Over the next few days, the aliens spent more time fighting each other than planning their attack on humanity. They argued about which species would attack which colonies. They disputed how to divide the conquered territories. They demanded guarantees and insurance against betrayal. Admiral Tae-min called 3 separate emergency meetings just to referee disputes between his allies. "At this rate, they'll still be arguing next year," Byung-ho said during one of their secret meetings. "Don't count on it," Daeho replied. "Eventually, someone will get tired of the delays and force a decision. We need to be ready when that happens." His prediction proved correct. 2 weeks later, Admiral Tae-min announced that the attack would proceed regardless of the disputes. He had convinced enough alien species to join him, even if others dropped out. "The human colonies are getting stronger every day we wait," he told the remaining alliance members. "We attack in 30 days, with or without full cooperation." That night, Daeho sent an urgent coded message through Hae-Young's network. "Final timeline confirmed. Enemy attack in 30 days. Repeat, 30 days." The response came back within hours. "Message received. All units report ready status. Let them come." Daeho smiled as he read those words. After weeks of careful manipulation, the trap was finally set. The aliens thought they were launching a surprise attack on weak human colonies. Instead, they were walking into the greatest military defeat in galactic history. But first, Daeho and his team had one more job to do. They needed to make sure the alien attack happened exactly as the human defenders expected. 30 days, he told Byung-ho and Hae-Young. "In 30 days, this war will be over before it really begins." "And after that?" Hae-Young asked. "After that, the galaxy will learn what humans can really do when we stop pretending to be harmless." The alien conspiracy had been 2 years in the making. The human response had been 50 years in preparation. Soon, everyone would see which side had planned better. With only 30 days until the alien attack, Daeho knew his team needed to work faster than ever. They had successfully divided the alien alliance, but now they needed to make sure the remaining attackers would hit human space exactly where. The defenders were ready for them. The problem was that Admiral Tae-min was not stupid. Despite all the chaos and arguments, he was still planning his assault carefully. If his fleets attacked the wrong colonies or used different strategies than expected, the human trap might fail. Daeho spent 3 days studying the Admiral's battle plans, which he accessed through the station's computer system during his late-night cleaning routine. The alien strategy was actually quite smart. They planned to hit 12 human colonies simultaneously, overwhelming the defenses before any single world could call for help. What the Admiral did not know was that human colonies had been sharing. defensive information for years through secret communication networks. Every colony knew exactly which other worlds might be attacked and when. But Daiho discovered a problem. 3 of the colonies on the Admiral's target list were not military fortresses like the others. They were real civilian farming communities with minimal defenses. If alien fleets attacked those worlds, thousands of innocent people would die. He brought this information to his partners during their nightly meeting. "We have to warn those colonies," Byung-ho said immediately. "Warning them might expose our whole operation," Hae-young replied. "If the aliens notice unusual military activity on worlds they think are defenseless, they'll know something is wrong. So what do you suggest? Let innocent people die?" "I suggest we make sure the aliens don't attack those colonies at all." Daiho thought about it. "Can we redirect the Admiral's attention to different targets?" "Maybe," Hae-young said, "if we make other colonies look more valuable or more threatening." They spent the rest of the night planning a complex deception. Using Hae-young's access to the communication network, they would plant false intelligence, reports that made the defended fortress worlds look like the real prizes, while making the civilian colonies appear worthless. The plan required perfect timing and a lot of luck. Over the next week, Hae-young began feeding Admiral Taemin carefully crafted information. She told him that her communication crystals had detected unusual energy signatures from certain human worlds. When he asked for details, she provided fake data suggesting that those worlds contained secret military research facilities. Meanwhile, Daiho used his diplomatic access to file reports about crop failures and economic problems on the civilian colonies. He made them sound like they were already struggling and not worth attacking. Byung-ho helped by making sure that weapon shipments to the fortress worlds were visible to alien spies, while arranging for the civilian colonies to appear to have no military supplies at all. Slowly, the Admiral's target list began to change. The fortress worlds rose in priority while the civilian colonies dropped off the list entirely, but their manipulation created an unexpected problem. With the alien alliance fractured and suspicious, some species began making their own attack plans, instead of following Admiral Taemin's strategy. The Vrex Empire decided to launch early strikes on human trade routes. The Spiral Alliance began positioning their fleets for attacks on completely different colonies. Daiho realized that instead of one coordinated assault, humanity now faced multiple separate attacks spread across several weeks. This was actually worse than the original plan, because it would be harder for human forces to respond effectively. "We need to bring them back together," he told his partners. "A scattered attack will be harder to defeat than a single large one." "How do we do that without making them trust each other again?" Byung-ho asked. Hae-young had an idea. "What if we give them a reason to attack together that has nothing to do with trust?" "Like what?" "Like making them think they have to attack at the same time, or they'll lose their chance forever." She explained her plan. Using her communication network, she would feed false information to all the alien species simultaneously. The information would suggest that human forces were planning their own preemptive strike in just 2 weeks. If they think humans are about to attack them, they'll have to move fast, she said. And they'll want as much firepower as possible, which means working together regardless of their trust issues. It was risky. If the aliens investigated too carefully, they would discover the information was fake. But if the plan worked, it would force all the alien fleets to attack at the same time and place where human defenders were ready. Daiho approved the plan, and Hae-young began implementing it immediately. She started by accidentally letting Admiral Taemin overhear a fake communication about unusual human fleet movements. Then she mentioned to a Vrex official that her sensors had detected strange energy buildups in human space. Finally, she told a Spiral Alliance representative that she was concerned about increased human military traffic. Within 3 days, panic spread through the alien leadership. Each species thought they had discovered evidence of an impending human attack, and they all reached the same conclusion. They had to strike first, immediately, with maximum force. Admiral Tae Min called an emergency meeting of the remaining Alliance members. "The humans know we're coming," he announced. "Our intelligence sources confirm they are preparing massive fleet movements. We must attack now before they can launch their own assault." The other aliens agreed quickly. Even species that had been arguing with each other realized they could not afford to face human attack fleets alone. "When do we strike?" asked the Vrex ambassador. 7 days from now," the admiral replied. "Every available ship hitting every strategic target simultaneously. This is our only chance." Daeho sent the updated timeline to human forces that same night. "Enemy attack in 7 days. All targets confirmed. Prepare for final phase." The response was immediate. "All defensive positions ready. Enemy forces will be destroyed. Prepare for new orders after victory." New orders? Daeho wondered what that meant, but there was no time to ask for clarification. As the alien fleets began moving toward human space, Daeho noticed something interesting. Several alien species were committing far more ships to the attack than originally planned. The false intelligence about human fleet movements had scared them into bringing everything they had. "They're not just trying to conquer human colonies anymore," he told his partners. "They're trying to destroy humanity completely." "Is that bad for our plan?" Byung-ho asked. "Actually, it's perfect," Ha-Young replied. "The more ships they bring, the more ships we'll capture or destroy. After this battle, most of these alien species won't have military fleets left." Daeho began to understand the full scope of the human strategy. This was not just about defending colonies. It was about permanently shifting the balance of power in the galaxy. When the alien fleets were destroyed, humanity would become the dominant military force in known space, and with their advanced terraforming technology, they would be able to expand faster than any other species. "After this week," he said quietly, "the galaxy is going to be a very different place." "Better or worse?" Byung-ho asked. "That depends on what humanity does with all that power." In 7 days, they would find out. On the morning of the attack, Nexus Station buzzed with nervous energy. Alien delegates paced the corridors, checking their communication devices every few minutes. Military officers huddled in small groups, speaking in whispers. Everyone knew that today would change everything. Daeho sat at his desk, pretending to work on routine reports while actually monitoring the alien fleet movements through Dr. Ha-Young's hidden network. Hundreds of warships were converging on human space from 6 different directions. It was the largest military operation in galactic history. At exactly 10:47 a.m., Admiral Tae Min called an emergency session of all remaining Alliance members. Daeho hurried to the main conference room, taking his usual seat in the observer section. "The attack begins in 1 hour," the Admiral announced. "Our fleets are in position. Today, we end the human expansion threat forever." The alien delegates cheered and congratulated each other. They were so confident of victory that some had already begun discussing how to divide the conquered human territories. But as the minutes ticked by, Daeho noticed something strange. Several aliens kept glancing at the communication displays, looking confused. The first battle reports should have arrived by now, but the screens remained blank. At 11:52 a.m., Admiral Taemin received his first message from the attack fleets. He read it quickly, then read it again with a puzzled expression. "What does it say?" asked Ambassador Krell. Fleet Commander Vash reports, "Unexpected resistance at colony designation Terra 7. He is requesting additional support." Requesting support? The Vrex ambassador sounded annoyed. "That colony has no military installations. It should have surrendered immediately." More messages began arriving, each one more disturbing than the last. Human colonies that were supposed to be defenseless farming communities were fighting back with advanced weapons and professional military tactics. Alien fleets that expected easy victories were encountering prepared defenders and sophisticated defense systems. By noon, the truth was becoming clear. Not a single human colony had fallen. Instead, alien fleets were reporting heavy casualties and requesting immediate reinforcements. "This is impossible," Admiral Taemin said, his snake-like body coiling anxiously around his chair. "Our intelligence clearly showed these worlds were undefended." "Maybe our intelligence was wrong," suggested the delegate from the Crystal Confederacy. "Or maybe," said a new voice from the back of the room, "your intelligence was exactly what the humans wanted you to believe." Everyone turned to look. Daeho had stood up and was walking toward the main table. But he no longer looked like a nervous diplomatic aide. His posture was straight, his movements confident, and his eyes showed the alertness of a trained operative. "Who are you?" Admiral Taemin demanded. "Agent Daeho of Human Intelligence Services," he replied calmly. "I've been watching and listening to your conspiracy for weeks." The aliens stared at him in shock. Several reached for weapons, but Daeho held up his hands peacefully. "Before you do anything violent, you should know that I'm not alone." Dr. Hae Young entered the conference room, followed by Byung-ho and 3 other humans that the aliens had thought were maintenance workers. All of them carried themselves like soldiers now. "Dr. Hae Young, Human Intelligence Services, Advanced Research Division," she announced. "The communication network you've been funding, it's been feeding intelligence directly to human military. Command for 8 months. Agent Byung-ho, Human Intelligence Services," the cargo handler added. "Every weapons shipment, every troop movement, every secret plan you made, we've been tracking all of it." Admiral Taemin's voice shook with rage. "This is an act of war." "No," Daeho replied. "What you've been planning for 2 years is an act of war. What we've been doing is defending ourselves." More messages were arriving from the alien fleets, and none of them contained good news. Human colonies were not just defending themselves, they were launching counterattacks. Advanced human warships were appearing from hidden bases, surrounding alien fleets and demanding surrender. "This cannot be happening," Ambassador Krell said desperately. "Humans are weak. They have no military technology." "We let you believe that," Hae Young said with a slight smile. "Every piece of intelligence you gathered about human capabilities was carefully crafted to make us look harmless." She activated one of her communication crystals, and a holographic display filled the center of the conference room. It showed the current battle situation across human space, with human forces clearly winning every engagement. "Your fleets attacked what you thought were defenseless farming colonies," she continued. "Instead, they found military fortress worlds, with decades of preparation and technology you can't imagine." "Impossible," the Admiral whispered. "Admiral," Daeho said, "you spent 2 years planning this attack. We've spent 50 years preparing for it." The holographic display changed to show the larger strategic situation. Human fleets were not just defending colonies, they were moving to surround alien home systems. The hunters had become the hunted. "What?" "Do you want?" Ambassador Krell asked, his 4 arms trembling. "Peace," Deho replied simply. "Real peace, based on mutual respect instead of attempted genocide. And if we refuse, then your fleets will be destroyed, your trade routes will be cut off, and your home worlds will be blockaded until you reconsider." As if to emphasize his point, a new message appeared on the main screen. It was from Fleet Admiral Yu Jin, commander of the Human Space Forces. "Attention Nexus Station. Human task forces are now in position around all alien capital systems. We are prepared to accept unconditional surrender from any species that participated in the conspiracy against humanity. All others will be treated as neutral parties and offered full diplomatic relations." The conference room fell completely silent. The aliens finally understood that their conspiracy had not just failed, it had backfired completely. "How long have you known?" Admiral Tae-min asked quietly. "We've suspected something like this might happen since the border wars ended," Deho replied. "Humans learn from experience. We knew that our rapid expansion would eventually threaten other species, and that some of them might try to stop us. So, you prepared for war while pretending to want peace?" "We prepared to defend ourselves while working for peace. There's a difference." Hae Young stepped forward. "Every human colony has defensive systems, but they also have advanced terraforming, equipment, and medical facilities. We can make dead worlds livable and cure diseases that other species consider incurable. We prefer to use those capabilities to help our neighbors rather than fight them. But you're also willing to fight if necessary," the Crystal Confederacy delegate observed. "Very willing," Byung-ho said firmly, "and very good at it." Admiral Tae-min looked at the battle reports one more time, then slowly lowered his head in defeat. "What are your terms for surrender?" "Complete withdrawal of all military forces from human space," Deho replied. "Compensation for damages caused by your economic warfare, and most importantly, a new treaty establishing equal rights and mutual cooperation between all galactic species." "Equal rights? You're the victors. You could demand anything." "We could," Deho agreed. "But we'd rather have allies than subjects. The galaxy is a big place. There's room for everyone to prosper if we work together instead of fighting each other." Over the next hour, the remaining alien delegates agreed to the human terms. They had no choice. Their fleets were destroyed or surrounded, and their home worlds were defenseless. But as the formal surrender documents were signed, Deho realized that this was not really an ending. It was a beginning. For the first time in galactic history, one species had achieved clear military dominance over all the others. How humanity used that power would determine the future of every world in known space. The test was just beginning. 5 years had passed since the failed alien conspiracy, and Nexus Station looked very different now. The corridors that once echoed with whispered plots and secret meetings now buzzed with genuine cooperation and shared projects. Humans and aliens worked side by side on everything from trade agreements to scientific research. Ambassador Deho stood in his new office, watching ships arrive and depart through the large observation window. His official title was now Human Ambassador to the Galactic Federation, but his real job was much more complex. He had become a bridge between humanity and the dozens of alien species that were still learning to trust their former enemies. A soft chime announced a visitor. Captain Ji-woo entered the office wearing the blue uniform of the Joint Exploration Service. She had arrived that morning with her mixed crew of humans and aliens fresh from discovering 3 new habitable star systems in the Andromeda sector. "Hello, brother," she said with a warm smile. "Ready for another family reunion?" "Always," Deho replied, embracing his sister. "How was the expedition?" "Incredible. We found a system with 7 planets, all suitable for terraforming. The Vrex geologists think 2 of them could support their crystalline cities, while the Spiral Alliance botanists are excited about the atmospheric conditions on the others." It was still strange to hear Jiwoo talk about alien crew members as colleagues and friends, but that was the new reality. After the failed attack on human space, most alien species had chosen cooperation over continued conflict. "Any problems with the mixed crews?" Daeho asked. "None. The aliens work just as hard as humans when they're exploring new worlds instead of plotting against each other." Admiral Tae-min was right about one thing. This technology really is bringing different species closer together. The former, Korthak's admiral, had surprised everyone by becoming one of humanity's strongest supporters after the war. His military experience made him valuable in planning joint defense operations, and his knowledge of alien psychology helped human diplomats avoid misunderstandings. "Speaking of Admiral Tae-min," Jiwoo continued, "he sends his regards. He's currently working with Dr. Hae-young on the new communication relay system." Hae-young had been promoted to Director of Galactic Communications, overseeing a network that now connected every inhabited world in known space. Her original research had been intended to help aliens coordinate attacks against humanity. Instead, it became the foundation for unprecedented cooperation between species. "How is the expansion program going?" Jiwoo asked. "Better than we hoped," Daeho replied, pulling up a holographic star map. Green dots marked human colonies, while blue dots showed joint settlements with alien partners. There were now more blue dots than green ones. "In the past 5 years, we've established over 300 new colonies. About 60% of them are joint ventures with alien species. Turns out that human terraforming technology works even better when combined with alien expertise in geology, atmospheric science, and biological adaptation." "And they're all successful?" "Every single one. The Vrex crystal-growing techniques have revolutionized how we build cities on high-gravity worlds. Spiral Alliance bioengineering helps us adapt crops to alien environments. Even the smaller species contribute unique skills." Jiwoo studied the map carefully. "This is incredible, Daeho. We're not just expanding human territory, we're creating something completely new. A truly multi-species civilization," he agreed. "Something the galaxy has never seen before." The door chimed again, and Byung-ho entered carrying a datapad. He now served as Director of Galactic Trade, managing the complex network of commerce between hundreds of worlds. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, "but we have the final numbers from the Kepler Sector Development Project." "Good news or bad news?" Daeho asked. "Definitely good news. The joint human-Vrex mining operation has exceeded production targets by 40%. The Spiral Alliance agricultural stations are producing enough food to supply 12 star systems. And the Crystal Confederacy energy collectors are generating more power than we know what to do with." "What about the former conspiracy members?" Jiwoo asked. "Are they really committed to cooperation, or are they just waiting for another chance to turn against us?" Byung-ho and Daeho exchanged glances. It was a question they discussed regularly in private meetings. "Most of them seem genuinely committed," Byung-ho replied. "They've seen how much more prosperous their worlds have become through cooperation than they ever were through competition. But we're still watching for signs of trouble." "Any specific concerns?" "A few species in the Outer Rim are complaining that humans are expanding too fast," Daeho said. They worry that we'll dominate the galaxy through sheer numbers rather than military force. Are they right? Probably. At our current expansion rate, humans and human-allied colonies will outnumber purely alien worlds within 20 years. But that's not because we're trying to dominate anyone. It's because our terraforming technology lets us settle worlds that other species can't use. Jiwoo nodded thoughtfully. So we're not taking their territory. We're creating new territory. Exactly. But some aliens still see rapid human expansion as a threat. What do we do about it? Byung-ho smiled. We keep doing exactly what we're doing. We invite them to join us instead of compete with us. Most species eventually realize that cooperation benefits everyone. And the ones that don't? They're welcome to stay in their own territories and develop at their own pace, Daeho said. We're not forcing anyone to work with us, but we're also not letting anyone stop us from growing. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent message on Daeho's communication system. Fleet Admiral Yu Jin appeared as a hologram, speaking from her flagship somewhere in the outer galaxy. Ambassador Daeho, we've made contact with a new alien species in the Centauri arm. They call themselves the Hegemony, and they claim to control over 1,000 star systems. Are they friendly? Daeho asked. Unknown. They're demanding that all human expansion stop immediately, and that we withdraw from what they consider their territory. They have a large military fleet, but we can't determine their technological level yet. Any immediate threats? Not yet. But they're mobilizing forces near our newest colonies. Captain Jiwoo, they specifically mentioned your exploration fleet. They consider your recent discoveries to be violations of their space. Jiwoo frowned. We're exploring unclaimed systems. If they had prior claims, they should have registered them with the Galactic Federation. They say they don't recognize the Federation's authority. Daeho sighed. After 5 years of successful cooperation, it looked like humanity might face a new challenge. But this time, they wouldn't face it alone. Admiral Yu Jin, please inform the Hegemony that any hostile action against human colonies will be considered. An attack on the entire Galactic Federation. Our alien allies have mutual defense agreements with us now. Understood, Ambassador. Should I begin military preparations? Begin preparations, but do not take any aggressive action. Send diplomatic messages first. If this hegemony species is reasonable, maybe we can find a peaceful solution. And if they're not reasonable? Daeho looked at his sister and Byung-ho, then back at the Admiral's hologram. Then they'll learn the same lesson the conspiracy members learned 5 years ago. Humanity is strongest when we work together with our friends. And we have a lot of friends now. The hologram flickered and disappeared. In the silence that followed, Daeho walked back to his observation window. The stars looked the same as always, but he knew the galaxy had changed forever. Humanity was no longer a small species struggling to survive among hostile neighbors. They had become the center of a growing alliance that included dozens of worlds and millions of beings from different species. Do you think we're doing the right thing? Jiwoo asked quietly. I think we're doing the human thing, Daeho replied. We're growing, exploring, and building something better than what came before. Not everyone will like it, but that's their choice to make. And if we have to fight again, then we fight. But this time, we won't be fighting alone. Outside the window, a convoy of ships prepared to depart for newly discovered worlds. Human vessels flew alongside Vrex crystal ships, Spiral Alliance biopods, and Crystal Confederacy energy barges. Each species contributed their unique strengths to the common goal of expansion and discovery. The galaxy was bigger than any one species could claim. but it was also small enough for everyone to share. Whether the hegemony and other future challenges would learn that lesson remained to be seen. But one thing was certain. The age of human expansion was just beginning, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again.